ITF Part 3. Basically, I'm going to start naming them all ITF, which is Intro to Fusion. Basically, easier than trying to type these things forever. I went online, you should see a little red dot on the bottom there, and it should see my little scroll, my little title thing here. Okay, so now I got the logo up, you guys should be able to see live. Here's what's going to happen. The first part is basically going to go through constraints. The important part about constraints and geometric constraints is going over how things can change. So you don't want to have to change, for example, you're building a car, right? The tires in the car. You don't want to have to change all 4 different tires. You want something to lock in, and whatever you change on one, it should automatically change on all 4, right? So that's what kind of the premise of all of this is going to be today. So the first thing you're going to see, and again, in Google Classroom, please mute me. Nobody wants to hear me all day. Inside of Google Classroom, you'll see the L bracket, okay? It's pretty straightforward. The instructions are there. This is 4th hour. I know it's okay. It's the same thing. It'll go here. If you ever get lost on this stuff, this is another thing that I had. I don't know where I go on this. Please look at the Fusion. I always title in here, and I'll maximize this. I always title in here where you need to go. Sketch, tutorials, and construction geometry and constraints, blah, blah, for beginners. So if I go back over here, not this one. If I go over to here, it's going to sketch, tutorial, which is already clicked, and then I go to construction, geometry, and constraints. This is what we're going to build today. It's going to be real simple and short. If you miss a step, though, the whole thing crashes and burns. Okay? So we got to make sure that we follow these steps pretty clear. What's the first thing you do when you start a new sketch? New design, and then you do what? Save, okay? So you're going to save yours. I'm not going to save mine because I don't want 15 of these things, but I have the save. Then you start a new sketch. Some of you are still having the issue where it looks like this. We have got to fix that, okay? I told you yesterday that you can go into Preferences, under your name, and make sure this is Y up. Apply, okay, and then basically sign out and sign back in. If that doesn't work, call me over. We have to fix this. The reason is when we start getting into bigger projects, you guys are going to want to, sorry, I'll delete that sketch. You'll want to basically have the same view, because when you start drawing, you'll have to draw in like negative numbers to get the same thing that looks like mine. You don't want to have to do all that math and all that mess. So if it looks like this, you're good to go. Anyways, we start here. Where do we start any object from? The origin, good. So if you're going to start here and you got the fusion going, and you come back here now, we're in the this part. Did all that part, we did all that part, now create lines and constraints. A lot of people are freaking out immediately because there's no dimensions on here. It doesn't tell you how long something is or how short something is. That's the point. You shouldn't have to. If you look at this and it says right in this, as you place the lines, some constraints are automatically created. That's important to understand. If you do not generate the same ones, don't worry. Try to make sure the first line is roughly 500 millimeters, but everything beyond that, don't worry about. So, what you're going to see is that basically if I start a line, okay, I start from the origin. I make that one 500. That's fine. Press enter, and I'm good to go. I got one line. This next one and the one after that, or all of them after that, do not matter. The length or anything. If I zoom in here, do you see that there's an option? It automatically locks in to make a right angle. Okay? Those two are perpendicular. That's a constraint that's already locked in for me. It even shows a little perpendicular symbol there. I go down roughly about here. And again, I look for that little right angle, doesn't even matter. And then I'm going to draw another line back here. It kind of locks it in there and locks it in there. You'll see that there's these little symbols everywhere. Okay? Those are automatically identifying constraints for me. That's good. That means you have to do less work. Okay? If they're not there, this is how you got to fix that. So basically, we're going to come back here and it's going to say create constraints. The first one is perpendicular. These numbers can get a little confusing. All the numbers mean are basically corners and edges. Okay, so number one, you're going to make sure that this corner is perpendicular, this corner is perpendicular, and this corner is perpendicular. Go up here, press perpendicular. That one's done. This one, sorry, I clicked the dot, not the thing. This one is not. So I'm going to click that and make sure that that is perpendicular to this, for example. And it does this, it messes it all up. Okay, so we got to make sure that all these are roughly the same. So I'm going to move this like here, random. And then we're going to go perpendicular. That is perpendicular to, why is it not doing it? That is perpendicular to that. Come on. Alright, well, we'll do this. We'll cheat. We'll go parallel. That one should be parallel to that. That'll automatically make that. That is parallel to that, which is already done, and it throws this error up because it's already been done. Those constraints are given. I can do perpendicular again. This is perpendicular to that, and again, it's already done. It's perpendicular to that. It's already done. So we don't have to do very much. Okay? Perpendicular, we're good. This is horizontal and vertical constraints. If you look back at the activity, number 2, it says to do horizontal and vertical constraints. So I'm going to make sure that I press this one, which is horizontal and vertical, that, and this one. And again, constraint, because it's already there. You see the symbols already there. Okay? Any questions so far? Pretty straightforward, right? Keep going down, and then you make equal constraints. This is kind of cool. So now we're going to say equal, which is not this one, this is parallel. One next to it says equal. We want this line to be equal to this line. You can see the whole thing is compressed. We also want this line to be equal to this line, and it extends out. Now, as you can start seeing, when I move things or modify them, they will all be locked in, and they won't be able to move things. They won't be able to adjust. Okay? So that's kind of cool, because then when you start getting to bigger objects, it makes more sense. Next part, create dimensions. 500, and then it keeps going, and it says 45 degrees. So this one's kind of cool. We already have the 500, so we're going to go 45. You can either do this, which is dimensions. You can either press the letter D, or you can drop down and go down here. I like pressing the hotkeys on the keyboard because it's faster. Press D. Press the bottom base once, and it'll look like I'm making another dimension. And then I click the angle, and it'll come up with an angle. 45, and now that's even locked in. Okay, you see how this got straight, this got straight. Now I'm doing pretty good. Let's go back and see what else is asking me to do. It wants these bases, these tops and this bottom, to be 100. Well, I only have to do one of them because they're equal to each other. So again, here, drop that in, 100. Now it's looking even thicker. Press OK, cancel, whatever, doesn't matter. Scroll down, next. Make round edges. Now it's asking me to do normal construction. What this does is basically allows me to focus on just these two lines and ignores the rest of the geometry. That's what we want. So what you're going to do here, and all this number is going to confuse you, all you got to do is click the edge, hold Shift to select multiple edges, right-click in the open space, and click normal construction. You'll see these turn dashed. That means that those things are the only things that are going to be focused on. Press a circle, and then these are the new commands. So these are kind of new too. Endpoints, which is basically the end of the line, shows up square. In the middle, the very middle, shows up triangle. That means it's a perfect midpoint. Okay, so I can click there once. I click out to the outside, and it shows into peach. I do the same thing over here. Find that triangle. Click it once, click it twice. If you do it right, all these should change peach. That, you know, whatever you want to call it, peach color. Okay. I go back again. Keeps going. It says draw those two circles. Then it tries to make these fillets that are 100. So I go back, fillet in here in 2D, not 3D. You did 3D before. This is 2D now. Or right here, or you can drop it down and press fillet. Click here and click the other line. That'll take those two and convert them. And it shows a number here. We want that to be 100. Enter. Right click, repeat it. And then 100 again. Now I have those two little curved edges. Okay? Any questions up to this point? Good. Well, next part. Create 3D. Now we're going to make this thing 3D. So then you're going to go into Fusion. You're going to rotate this a little bit. And we're going to extrude it. We're going to finish the sketch. And we're going to select this part, and this part. And we're going to pull it out. And I think it says 50? Yeah, 50 millimeters. So after you're done with this, you can either punch it over here or over here, doesn't matter. 50, enter. Now I'm close. So now it says, after that, to create another sketch on this surface and sketch lines that go across. Now this can be a little confusing in the step-by-step. New sketch, onto that surface. Draw a line. Remember, the center of the circle to a rando spot. Right-click again to repeat. Circle to a rando spot. It'll lock in here. You don't want it to lock in, because then you're stuck. Okay, some new commands. So the first thing we got to do is make sure these are parallel. So I'm going to make this line parallel to this edge. That's pretty. That line parallel to that edge. That's pretty too. Now I got to make that thing connect to that. Now a lot of people just want to do this and move it over. That looks right? If I zoom in close enough, it's still overhanging, and that's not right. Okay? The simple way to fix that and to make sure that it's perfect every time is use two commands. The first command is called extend, okay? And that's under modify. You then just press the line that you want to keep going. And then you got this little tail. The second command is called trim. And that basically cuts that little tail away. And now you have your perfect knife flesher. Press OK. Next part is to make the rest of the circles, I think. Just to make the normal construction again, like we did, to focus on just these lines. Hold Shift, click that other line, right click, bless you. Normal construction that focuses on those lines and ignores the rest. Circle command, and I believe these are 50. There's a 50 here. Do 50. There's a 50, repeat it again. 50 here. And then I want to put one in the middle of these lines. So circle again. And remember, we're looking for that triangle. The triangle's right there. 50. One more time. Look for the triangle. Found it. 50. And now, we can finish that sketch. We can do the last part. Extrude. We can cut these apart. And usually what you guys are used to doing is something like this, where you cut those parts out. Well, now what we're going to do is we are going to cut them in. We're going to move them the opposite way. So you can go this way and cut holes into that part. Now if you look at this, it can be a little confusing. So if you drop this down, originally it'll be join. You want it to be cut because you're cutting into the part. You also want distance to change through all. You don't have to cut in the la-la land and the nothing land. You want it just into the part that you're focusing on. If you press this to all, you press this to cut, you press OK, and now your whole entire part is now completely done. Whee! Okay? Good? Any questions? Okay. I'll post the video and then you guys can watch it on your own time. No, it's doing it right now and I'm ending it right now, so it'll take a